Hello, everyone, and welcome to the November 28th regular Town Council meeting. We'll start off with a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Bullock makes the motion. Is there any additions or deletions on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next, do we have to adopt the minutes of the organizational meeting first?
Yes.
Okay, we'll take a motion to adopt. Councillor Rudick makes the motion. Is there any errors or omissions within those minutes of the organizational meeting? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next up, the adoption of the regular council meeting of October 24th. Councillor Lemko makes the motion. Any errors or omissions within those minutes?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next up, we have a delegation of new business in town. So if you could step up, Khaled, and introduce yourself, and we'll ask you some questions about what it is you do.
Doing the engineering services. First of all, thank you for this invitation. And my name is Khaled. Just to give you maybe a quick about myself and my business. Maybe we arrived in Vegreville in 2018, and as a maybe refugee, and our friend in the United Church helped us, and we started from zero. They helped me for documentation, translation, and for my documentation and with the process with engineering. And then I took series of exams, approximately 12 exams for accreditations, and then I became as a maybe licensed as a structural engineer in BC and Alberta and Ontario as well. Then I decided to start my business on the town. At least I have to do something for the town. He helped me and saved my family. Maybe unless maybe this town saved me and my family, maybe we will killed like thousands of families who maybe passed away in Syria in the war. When I opened my business in the town, and I decided to do something in specific for this town. From last maybe March up to moment, all projects I did in the town, I charge the local peoples here half amount of any maybe fees, maybe if you can hire any engineer out of the town. I did a lot of site inspections here in the town for free for people. Last month there is a couple here in the town, they have a house. I visit their house maybe 5 times. I did engineering inspection completely for all the process, and I didn't charge them anything. Also for any kind of inspections or need report, I charge maybe half amount of, and I did that with a lot of people here in Vegreville. Also, I supported the local business. For any people hire me for designing as a structural, commercial, maybe industrial, private. Always I started with maybe local people. For example, in last June, someone hired me to cut maybe a wall and install maybe new door to connect the basement with the garden. And after proceeding with the design, and he got the approval from the city in the Sheard Park, he asked me for maybe quote. Then I referred him for some local business in the town. Yesterday as well, there is an association here in the town asked me to do something, and then also I referred him to another business in the town. Also, last summer, maybe some ladies maybe hired me from Two Hills. They have resorts in the lake, close to St. Paul. I did the designing for them. And also, I referred for 3 carpenters from the town to do this business. I'm doing volunteering assessment and training for students from the town. Last week, there is a lady contact me here in the town, and his son in a process for getting professional engineer. I review that for free. And if they seek any help from maybe any consultant engineering in Edmonton, minimum they maybe charge them for $600. And when some people ask me why do that, I have to do something for the town, help me. and then I decide to start a business in the town. Maybe when you and I appreciate when you respond to my email and you explain, maybe you just maybe because it is business from home, but this is an engineering business. It is not a boutique, not a salon, not a restaurant. Just you need a table, computer, good internet, and that's what are doing. I'm working for ACOM as a senior structural engineer, and I'm doing unique project design, such as maybe the tunnel of the Lethbridge University and the Lake Louise maintenance building, and all of that from home. And also last month I did maybe some engineering calculation for the North Shore treatment in Vancouver from home. This is the engineering business. You don't need a facility, just you need computer, table, good internet, and that's it. And the next step I'm going to do, once my wife get her license as a mechanical engineer, we will switch to maybe consultant engineer. And then we can always switch from Vegreville engineering to Vegreville consultant. That means we can bid for multi-million dollar. We have to start our team, and that's what our planning. We are in touch with some students. There may be families from the town and the town in the neighborhood, and that will be my target. Finally, I offered also some free training for structural software for maybe some students from the town here. They can allow him to enter maybe the market as drafting or technologist for maybe for some engineering companies. That's what the reason why it's my honor to maybe invite you or maybe other team from the town to visit us to talk about our business. That's it.
So,
thank you.
Hala, can you tell us like some of the challenges that you've seen trying to get your credentials recognized in this country? You said that you had to take 12 different exams.
Yes.
And over what time period did it take for you to get your...
The challenge when you have to start, because I started working casual work in Walmart. It's physical. You back home, you have just to maybe rest maybe 1 hour, and you have to study. And the maybe routine, this is not here only in Canada, this is around the world, especially for engineering association. And also when the first challenge to get the book, and I need laptop, I need documents. I don't have money for that. Then finally I found maybe an organization in Edmonton, me alone. And then after that I took the exams. I have the material to study, to register for the exams. And it's maybe 3 years of pain for me. Sometimes from 8 morning until 11 evening, working, studying. That's difficult. But finally, it's okay, because this is I decided to challenge. And nowadays, I back to the university again to continue on my dream in Syria before the war. I had my master's degree in structural design, in seismic design, and for steel structure and connections. But we lost everything. And then finally, I found here a professor in the University of Alberta. He maybe will be my supervisor. The next step, I had just to take an exam for maybe language level, and then proceed to complete my dream to be professor in structural design and seismic analysis.
Oh, good on you. So some of the services that you offer to the residents of this area in our community are like, if they need a lot of people have buy just a set of drawings that they want to build their house, build a garage, but obviously the town won't let them do that unless they're approved they have to be engineered stamp. So you have that capacity.
Yes.
You could look at the drawings and go through them, and you could put your stamp as an engineer on them.
Yeah.
Done locally, people don't have to leave the community now to have that done.
Yes, and also the client in general have to understand his right. When I received last month maybe a terrible drawing for a couple here from the town, and I know he paid maybe 3,000 or 4,000 from a company out of the town, and I told him this is completely wrong. and you need maybe some revise, and you have to understand your right. For example, I told him, when you get your insulation, you have to get warranty for 15 or for 20 years. When you framing, you have to get warranty for maybe the wood, what the kind of the wood. And for this house, finally I charged him maybe half amount of the maybe if they maybe hire any office out of the town. Maybe sometimes why you ask me, because when I graduated from the university and we took the oath, one of our oath we have to support the local citizens. I contacted maybe some board in church here. I told them, if somebody in trouble financially can't pay it, I can do that for free. I won't charge them anything. And I offered maybe free services for church and mosque here in the town, same what we used to do in Syria. I maybe for the Roman Catholic Church, I did maybe design for maybe new basement for them. I didn't charge them for that anything. This is from one of the oath I took when I graduated.
Does anybody have any questions about the services that he offers?
I just have a certification
Go ahead.
question. You were mentioning the different provinces that you were certified in. Did you have to, and this is just, kind of wondering what kind of things you have to jump through to get the certification. Did one exam qualify you for all 3 provinces, or did you have to take each one individually per province?
First of all, when you applied for any engineering association in Canada, there is maybe separate law. But when you be licensed in one province, you can then apply to other province. Why I applied? Because I have job. Some people hire me, and I have to apply my stamp, especially maybe the project in BC. It's a challenge. BC is high seismic area, and you need to understand the code of seismic. It's very dangerous. Now I'm working in 2 post-disaster buildings in BC, and not an engineer can review. And this is one of maybe material I studied when I was a student, and took courses with the American code for years. And the American code same the Canadian standard. And finally, some maybe friends in Ontario asked me to apply for license to stamp their drawing, because we are working also freelancer.
Okay.
Well, I know that since your family has arrived here, that you've done a lot. Your family has done a lot for this community, and you should be very proud of your family and
Thank you.
what they've achieved, because we've heard nothing but good things about everything that you guys have participated in. And as far as our policy, we usually go to the new businesses in town, and present them with a plaque and stuff. But we stay away from the home-based businesses, just on the simple fact that there's just so many, and they're in business for a month. They're all seasonal, they're selling candles. But we really appreciate the fact that you're bringing this professional service, engineering service, into our community. And we were hoping and wishing you all the success.
Last month, maybe last summer, the town referred maybe a drawing from a gentleman here in the town for garage. And when they brought the drawing for me, I revised and didn't charge anything, and also charged him the half amount. Same. To be honest, out of Vegreville, no, I take full amount. I can't share the name, but maybe 6 to 7 families here in the town, I charge them 50%.
Well, we wish you all the success, and you may have to start charging more.
No, no. Because to be honest, maybe depending on maybe small jobs in the town, like maybe stamping and that, it's not a big deal. My work with now maybe big company in Canada and unique design and international designing, that's maybe the main income.
Well, and again, if you want to specialize in the seismic part of engineering,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the world's looking for, especially on the West Coast. We don't get a lot of seismic activity around.
I know. And
Hopefully we don't.
I know, but hopefully to stay away of seismic, it's terrible. And also not seismic, also wind tunnel for the towers.
Oh, yeah.
We did maybe some tower designing. I participate in maybe a tower in Dubai, 300-meter height. It's around maybe 650 feet height. And this is, it needs a special maybe design for maybe simulation for the wind. 3 companies around the world can do the simulation. One in Canada, one in maybe Taiwan, one in USA. You have to maybe simulate and then email them, then give you the result, then update, then you can proceed your designing. That's what kind of that.
So right now, you said you're employed with AECom.
I employ with AECOM, yeah. And the good with that, AECOM don't maybe take residential. So most of the AECOM staff have their own companies and no conflict of interest for that.
Yeah, their AECom is the engineer group for the Water Commission that serves Vegreville, so.
Yeah, tomorrow I'll be working with them for new projects at the water group tomorrow.
Good. Excellent. Go ahead, Councillor Rudy.
So Khaled, of course, we've known each other since you've been to Canada, so I don't know if the rest of council knows that Khaled and Maha and their boys, Amr and Musab, all became Canadian citizens this summer too. So not only have they come to Vegreville and been a part of the community by joining the school and being active members of the community in soccer and coaching and doing all kinds of activities with their kids, they've also made sure that they've made a long-term commitment because they can't return home to Syria. So their home is Canada, and we're very happy to have you here in Vegreville.
Thank you.
So congratulations for that too.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, there's nothing better to see people have success and come here, and we know that you and your family have worked hard since you've been here and worked hard on behalf of this community. So for that, we want to thank you and your
You're very welcome. And this is at least to do something for the town. Help me. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Director Saskew, I think you're up next.
I guess that's by process of elimination.
You got it all tonight.
The first one on here is from the Tourism Department. It's a memo for the board appointment of Rachel Farr. So the recommendation is that Town Council appoint Rachel Farr to the Vegreville Tourism Advisory Board with the term to expire in December 2024. This appointment will be in accordance with Bylaw 04-2022, Section 4.3A.
Okay. Who's on the tourism board? Councillor Lemko.
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Lemko makes the motion that we approve the appointment of Rachel Farr to the Vegreville Tourism Advisory Board. Any other comments? Go ahead, Councillor Bullock.
I think that appointing Rachel Farr is a very positive step for the tourism board moving ahead. She's very active and manager of the Vegreville Agricultural Society office, and she knows how to put things together. So glad to see her aboard on that board.
Okay, if there's no other comments, all those in favor? Carried. Welcome to the Vegreville Tourism Advisory Board, Rachel. And I know she'll do a good job, so. Okay, so next up, are we gonna have a monthly cash statement?
I was going to say, we need to step back to 7.1.
No, you need to step back. I really thought that you were going there.
We're just going to skip it. So the monthly cash statement, we began the month with $10,428,000 and ended the month with $11,381,000. So that's a net increase of $953,523. So major sources of cash were Government of Alberta funding for FCSS, approximately $100,000. ISIP funding, so we got a payment for the last 2 to 3 months of $1.2 million. And then we also received a County of Minburn grant for the library of $51,000. Major uses of cash were actually not great this year, or not too many this last month. John S. Patouk for water was about $89,000. And then payments for Prosperity Park were about $111,000. So that is the cash statement, unless anyone has questions. Actually, one other thing, in our high interest savings account, we have approximately $8 million of the $11 million in savings. We earned $26,611, so we are definitely reaping the benefits of the interest rates.
Excellent. Any questions? I'll take a motion for the, Councillor Curtis makes a motion to accept the monthly cash statement as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Now, the big work.
Yes. Okay, so the next one is the 2023 five-year capital plan. This is a request for council decision to approve the 2023 five-year capital plan. So the background, after presentations by the directors of each department to town council regarding their respective proposed 2023 five-year capital plan requirements, council and administration had held a capital budget meetings to discuss and deliberate these proposed projects. The five-year capital plan includes the 2023 capital budget and capital plans for each of 2024 through 2027. The 2023 capital budget within the five-year capital plan totals $8.2 million and includes the following. So there's a table of all of the capital planned and where they're funded through, for a total of $8,222,796. So the communication on this is the five-year capital plan will be made available on the town's website, and printed copies will be available at the town administration office by request. Financial implications. So the capital budget is comprised of the following funding components: grants of $5,478,692, reserves $423,500, tax funded from operations of $56,000, and debenture financing of $2.264 million. So for a total of $8,222,796. Recommendation is that town council approve the Town of Vegreville 2023 capital budget in the amount of $8,222,796 and accept the capital plans for 2023 through 2027 in principle as presented.
Okay. Counselor Rudick.
I'll make the motion to accept the budget, the capital budget, five-year capital budget plan as presented.
Okay, so we have a motion for the recommendation on the floor. Is there any comments? Go ahead.
I appreciate the work that's done on that. I think that the long-term planning is very good for us because it allows us to see ahead and potentially break up some of the costs without them being high impact. However, I think that it still spells out the need for continued advocacy to our provincial counterparts for the long-term sustainable funding, because as they continue to want to see us putting forward longer-term budgets overall, it's still very difficult to do when we don't have that sustainable funding component in place. So I appreciate this work and would like to see that, and it would certainly, I think, assist administration as well as council in the future.
Well, we'll definitely keep pushing hard for the grants that we've applied for now, and hopefully that they'll take over some of this debenture financing with the grants. So, but we have a motion for the recommendation to accept the capital budget. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Okay, so the next one is the operating budget approval. And just a note, the operating budget approval 2, document 2, it also has the capital budget contained at the end of it. So this will be what we're presenting to the public as the full budget report. So I'm going to look at the RCD now, and so the proposal is to approve the 2023 three-year operating plan. The background is planning for the 2023 operating plan commenced in September 2022, accumulating with presentations from managers of each department to council regarding their proposed 2023 three-year operating plan. Council and administration held several meetings to discuss and deliberate the proposed plan and any changes thereto. Municipal staff, together with town council, have dedicated significant time and effort since September in developing the 2023 to 2025 financial operating plan that determines service levels and priorities initiatives according to the objectives and goals outlined in the 2022 to 2025 strategic plan and its subsequent sustainability plan. The three-year operating plan contains the 2023 operating budget and operating financial plans for each of 2024 and 2025. The three-year operating plan presented is the foundation for the municipality to implement business plans and priorities in 2023, 2024, and 2025. Based on discussions with council, administration worked hard to keep the net municipal tax revenue equivalent to the 2022 values prior to the decreases we saw in 2021 as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are proud to deliver a balanced budget with these values as the current inflation rates are sitting at 6.5% for 2022. Financial implication is the 2023 operating plan includes an estimated property tax levy of $9,371,398 for the municipal portion of property taxes, consistent with pre-pandemic taxation levels. Total revenues, including municipal portion of property taxes and internal transfers, are $18,114,627, and total expenditures are $18,112,442, resulting in a surplus of $2,185 before amortization expense. Amortization is not an expenditure and therefore not included in determining the overall property tax levy. However, it is an expense required to be included in the three-year operating plan. Amortization expense for 2023 in the three-year operating plan is $3.9 million and results in a budgeted deficit, including amortization, of $3,948,537 for 2023. So the communication is that the three-year operating plan will be made available on the town's website, and printed copies will be available at the town office by request. And the recommendation is that town council approve the Town of Vegreville 2023 operating budget contained in the 2023 three-year operating plan and accept financial plans for 2024 and 2025 in principle as follows. So there's a summary there, and
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Be looking for a motion to support the recommendation. Councilor Warwell makes the motion. Any discussion? So when you use the term "2020 values," can you expand on that?
So that is the values that we had for net municipal tax increases before we decreased our tax rates as a result of the COVID pandemic. So we had the 2% decrease in 2021, and we held that for 2022 budget. And so the current tax revenue is back up to 2020 values of net municipal tax collected. So we haven't exceeded what we had in 2020. We're just back to where we were before we gave the break for COVID.
So basically, what this budget represents to the property owners in this community is that we'll be going back, recapturing that 2% tax that we took away last year. It'll come back.
Correct.
Okay, as long as everybody knows that. Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, carried. Director Sasky, did you get a new pair of shoes for tonight?
I didn't.
Oh, my goodness.
I
Breaking
should have.
tradition.
Maybe I'll buy some tonight. It's Cyber Monday.
Okay, it looks like you're done.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we'll have council reports. And we'll start with Councilor Curtis.
Thank you very much. So starting back on the 4th, we had one of our budget meetings, and then on the 8th, we had our ledge meeting, and November 16th, 18th, I went to the FCSS conference, which was my first time at that. It was very well done, very well put on. There was some very good sessions. One of my actual favorite ones was around, it was a climate migration scenario, which what would happen if climate change got to the point where you can no longer live where you lived. And we had to disperse a lot of people, so it was actually pretty cool to see, thinking about how it would go down, what you would need to do, how we would bring people in. And it's not like it's anything particularly new with what we're doing with Ukraine right now and in other areas in the world. So that was the highlight as well. We got to talk to Minister Nixon, who is the Minister for Seniors, Community, and Social Services. And, our FCSS does a great job, and we're looking at inviting him here because they had heard how our Alberta Supports is open to the public and taking people for appointments, and a lot of them still maybe aren't there yet. So they wanted to see what our successes were. And I'll give a big credit to our FCSS department and council as well for the data collected and the pushing to make sure that was open. So that was my highlight from there. November 22nd, we had a ledge meeting and then another budget meeting as well after that to kind of conclude everything. I went to the childcare assessment on the 24th. It was a community engagement meeting. Councilor Rudick was there as well. Just trying to gauge what the town thinks about, where we're at with childcare. We know there's a waiting list and it's hard to get spots. There will be another one coming up. There's no date on it yet, but I'm hoping to see more parents out at the second one. We didn't have really any parents there. It was FCSS members, council members, and then childcare providers. So the best way to get your voice heard is to get out to these things, make some time, bring your thoughts and your concerns, and hopefully we can move forward with a plan to help the town, get some more spots and have some more childcare as well. Julie and I are going to have a meeting with Jackie Armstrong regarding what we get for the notes from the town and what we can do, what the government can do to help. And then today I had my FCSS meeting. We had a presentation from BASA, which is Social Solutions. So they're looking at community engagement as well to see if, making sure FCSS is following their mandate, and as well what the community wants to see and where the community prioritizes what FCS is doing. So we're hoping to get some good community engagement out of that. It's not out yet. We're just internally discussing what we think, and then we're going to hopefully get some public info to see where they feel we fit, and maybe Councillor Roy can expand on that after. But preliminary for that, and we're just hoping to get more information and put a plan together, as well as a strategic plan that kind of goes along with what council has for our plan. Then tonight's council meeting, and as well I have in here just various days. We did some plaque presentations, Heyday, Spin, and Mystic Lotus, Booster Juice, Balance Therapies, and I also attended the Christmas Light Up Parade. And I had a Silk call, a Senior Lincoln call, or Slick call, sorry, on November 16th. And there was some juggling with the days, so we didn't have a very big turnout. So I'm going to do a second one in December and kind of redo what I did and then add anything new to it. So that's my report.
So what's that date again, with the next time that you're asking parents that are concerned about childcare?
We don't have the date set yet.
Okay, so
But we're going to make sure that we're going to post it on the town website, and we're going to try and make sure there's as much communication out as possible to ensure that everybody has an opportunity, and we'll get it out well in advance so that we'll hopefully have some more people show up.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Bullock.
Thank you. And going way back to tail end of October, we did some presentations as well, some of the new businesses, and the grand opening at SR Feed and Farm Supply grand opening. So good to see another ag business opening as well. November 2nd, Chamber of Commerce Board meeting. We went through that. On November 4th, Councillor Curtis and I did a food bank pickup from No Frills. November 4th, our budget meeting. November 8th, a legislative committee meeting, as well with some more business presentations in between that. November 16th, I've participated in the webinar for FCM Reviving Communities Through Data webinar. Kind of found a little bit, it seemed to be like it was leaned more so towards the bigger communities. I didn't feel that it leaned towards us as that much there, but there still was valuable information for us in there. So, Vegreville Corn Maze succession planning and check presentations, along with Councillor Lemko and Councillor Barry. And Vegreville Christmas and Parade was taken in that weekend. On the 21st, I attended the Shell Scotford Carbon Capture Open House, just to get the feel of the room and just get a little information from some of the members from Shell Scotford there. And the economic spin-off for the town of Vegreville with this project that will be happening going forward is pretty good. So maybe temporary, but it'd probably be pretty good for the next half year or so for sure. Just, restaurants, hotels, everything in general that this town sells. So that's pretty good. November 22nd, we had our meet and greet with council, our legislative committee meeting, and budget meeting on November 22nd as well. Cal's Community Association of Lasting Success Board meeting. Just of note, they will have a big announcement coming up, so just keep an eye on Cal's social media page. I didn't want to break it out here tonight. I want to let them give that to the community themselves. It's a really big announcement. It's really good for this community. So, and on the 24th, I also did story time at the Vegreville Centennial Library and Coffee with a Counselor. November 24th, Your Worship and I were at the Vegreville Agricultural Society AGM. They were electing their board and just going over what happened in the last year and success with the Vegreville Fair this year, about 20,000 people, and how important that the Vegreville Agricultural Society is to our community, and the volunteers that are drawn from outside of Vegreville, not only within Vegreville, that are also very, very important to note. And tonight's council meeting. That's all I got.
Thank you very much. It was an interesting to see the Vegreville Agricultural association, and looks like look very strong in the membership and the board members over there, and they seem pretty excited with some of the success they've seen. Father's Day event was unbelievable. They just didn't expect that kind of numbers, and they thought the fair was gonna drop off, but basically it stayed pretty close to what it was last year too, so. A lot of good things happening over there, and they spent a lot of money on their facilities as well, so. Thank you very much. Councilor Rohrer.
All right, so I had many of the same, but going back into the end of October, I had a community futures meeting, and of course there was still, the good news is there's still businesses that are looking for expansion, moving forward in some ways, so we're still approving loans in that way. But one of the concerns, because we always do a roundtable at the end, was interestingly enough, some of what we were hearing is that the patrons are not the problem. These businesses are actually still getting, which is a good sign in the fact of people are going out and they're using these businesses. But the problem is the same thing we're hearing here. It's workers. It's workers, workers, workers. And we had this discussion at an FCSS meeting earlier today where a comment was made by somebody that I brought forward that they said, where are the people? And that's literally what we heard around the table was in some cases, businesses were able to expand and said they had the capacity for the patrons coming in and just couldn't offer some of the additional services. So sometimes that's where you're seeing some extensions of these companies because they're prepared and everything's good to go and they just can't get the workers. So that is a real issue. On the 27th, along with your worship, I was with the coffee with the counselor and the reading time. And one of the things I heard in a conversation, which I thought was quite interesting, through the FCSS, it started during COVID, where they were looking at different ways to reach out to the senior groups, and they were looking at a virtual phone call type of method. I wasn't sure how it would work. I wasn't sure if that was something that our seniors group would get into, but we actually had one gentleman sitting there who was speaking to me about it and just wanted to share how good he thought it was, and this program has continued now. And he said that he felt that it helped him keep in touch with people and was actually beneficial. So first of all, I think that's a kudos to the group to think outside the box and how to provide that service, but also let us know that we weren't too sure how it would work out and that really what people want to do is just hear voice. They wanted to hear voice and talk to people, and so the feedback I heard was very good on that. I also attended the same meetings, or a couple of the same meetings, the budget meeting, the legislative meeting, and the grand opening of the Feed and Farm, Remembrance Day ceremonies. And then on the 18th, I was at the food bank delivery with Councillor Rudick, and it was quite cold, and I was quite thankful for your vehicle as well. We had some interesting challenges with some boxes of cans that refused to stay together, but I think the plus side of it was my truck was full, so, and it was needed. I mean, we watched a family come in that we helped load their vehicle while we were there. I think a challenge is, you know, there isn't always that many volunteers at the food bank, and they're receiving a lot of these goods and even helping people carry them out. So, you know, it's hard to see, and I think that we're just starting to feel some more of the economic challenges, and so I think I think the food banks are going to be highly utilized this season. So, on the 27th, was at the staff meet and greet, the legislative meeting and the budget meeting. November 24th was a VTSS meeting, and today the council meeting and the FCSS. Just a couple quick additional things with the FCSS. I also really enjoyed our first step in the strategic plan. And I think one of the tools that they used today that they did like a trial on us was actually quite a good one. And they're talking about using it for a public consultation, which was being able to go on and scan an app, and the questions came up. And what was nice about that was it allowed you to just really freely answer the way you would want to versus maybe influence from a group being around, and then he could immediately get the results. And that could be something really good with a public consultation that they're looking at in towards the Januaries, that then the results can come up and they could talk about it immediately. So I thought that was really good to see. And another point that they were making was the shift back that, you know, you can look at when you're strategic planning on the fact that FCSS is primarily supposed to be about preventative services. So it was how to get back to that, because we did a lot of coverage during COVID, as well as maybe for some services that have been downloaded to us. And now it's how do we get back to doing preventative services, but also how do we determine what is a preventative service? And I thought actually the gentleman that was facilitating today kind of gave a little bit of a model that had 4 categories just for preventative services. So I was very interested to see in the future, how would we learn how to break into those categories once you prioritize them? So I thought that was really interesting. I've never seen them actually break it down. I've always heard the preventative versus, follow-up services versus it being more triage at the moment. So to see preventative broken down, I thought was really good. One issue that is still on for advocacy, and I just think it's something for us to be aware that we need to keep speaking with the province about, was the discussions in the community that people are hearing that AHS and some community health center services that are currently Vegreville services are being centralized to Camrose. That's what we're hearing. And obviously, it's a concern anytime there might be something out of the community, but particularly one of the things that they were talking about is while we have some busing services that will go to Sherwood Park, Edmonton, Vermilion, and Lloydminster, there isn't currently a direct busing service that goes into Camrose. Now, I know we have some awesome options for assistance to get to these locations, but if it is something that we see happening, that would be somewhat of a concern if we see some of those services moving. So I think that's just conversations to continue to have. And then I just wanted to make one note about a non-council related event on November 10th through the Member of Parliament's office. I just want to congratulate Councillor Lemko on being awarded the Queen's Jubilee pin. His name was put forward by several members from the community for the work over the years on several departments, but very noted for the work with the fire department and your passion towards that. So congratulations, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think that we should be thanking the FCSS manager. I mean, the last few years, they've been scrambling to try to fill the needs of the day in this community, but to try to refocus now and bring us back to preventative type of services. And it's a lot to take on with everything else they've been doing. So
much hard
I'm looking forward to how that strap plan looks and how this community will be affected by getting back to the preventative side of services. Thank you. And up next, Councillor Rudick.
Well, it's been a month since our last council meeting, so there's lots of things on my report. I'll just mention some of the things that are a little bit different. October 31st, I got to meet the new hospital administrator at St. Joseph's Hospital and the current hospital board chair, Councillor Cuzio from the county. Very pleased to see the new administrator is very experienced in running a rural hospital that is quite remote. She comes from southern Alberta, and her approach is very consultative and collaborative, and we've already had some good progress with the Homestead Lodge, for example. They've got practicum nurses that have had a challenge trying to find any space to rent, and we were able to find a room that would traditionally not be very appealing to seniors that would be moving into the Homestead Lodge long-term, and we were able to accommodate a student nurse, and the new manager was very interested in renting that space and making sure that she has a space for her staff, and so it really is a first experience with the new administrator is very positive, and looking forward to seeing some of the results because they're doing their long-term service planning right now. I know Councillor Barry is busy in that planning, and really great to be able to meet somebody who already has some great perspectives on how to work with existing strengths in the community. That day on October 31st, I was also attending Byron James' retirement, and I want to publicly thank Byron for his long-term commitment at the Research Council, as it was originally called, or the Environmental Center, currently called Initech. And Byron has been a dedicated local advocate for being educated and coming back to your community and dedicating your efforts towards bettering your community. And he's been a great ally. We talk lots about Dr. Slasky, but the other part of the equation in advancing the hemp knowledge and research is Byron James and his team doing the field work. So it's great to be able to see him get so emotional about making his transition to retirement and recognize somebody who's been a very strong advocate for Vegreville. Lots of things on here, budget meeting, et cetera. Physician Attraction and Retention Committee meeting on November 16th. Because Councillor Berry is not here, I'll just mention this because I will be completing my term on the Yellowhead East Health Advisory Council at the end of February. And I'm currently the vice chair as a volunteer on that board. But I would like to encourage somebody to apply to be on that board. The ongoing need for Vegreville relevant information on that committee will be continuing, and the size of Vegreville in East Central Zone and the need to consider having, as Councillor Warwa said, the minute things start changing. So we have a Covenant Health facility here, but we have a lot of Alberta Health services that are provided here, and if we don't have a good picture of what's happening with seniors, as well as young families, and being able to relate those two issues, that'll be an ongoing concern. But we also had some good conversation about making sure that we are welcoming and retaining the families of physicians that are coming to town, that it's not just the physician that's going to be retained, it's the family that's incredibly important. And we've got 2 vacancies right now in physician postings, and hopefully one of them will be filled shortly. That evening, we also had the Vegreville Centennial Library Board meeting, and we passed the budget for the upcoming year. We also had, that was the first meeting with our new manager, so Kira Chalupa is the new manager. She's moved to town and already providing some good feedback and a new perspective, taking an evaluation of what's offered at the local library and bringing in some of her perspective and experience other places. One of the things that will be coming up in the upcoming while is taking a look at the technology there and doing some modernization of some of the pieces of equipment there with the help through Northern Lights Library Systems, as well as recalling the foundation and trying to make sure that we're able to start fundraising there at the Centennial Library. Happy to attend the Light Up Parade on November 19th. Great to see so many people in the community out and about, and a little chillier than we've had in the last, I guess last year was very cold, I just wasn't there, the last couple of years. So it was great to be able to see people out and about celebrating and starting the holiday season off with such a vibrant event. November 24th, we had MD Minburn Foundation. I'd like to congratulate Councillor Lemko, who is now the chair of that foundation. And we have made a lot of progress this last year. We've had some renovations of suites that were not appealing because they didn't have in-suite bathroom services. So we've already made the decision to invest in expanding some of the suites, making sure that there was bathing facilities in those suites, and they are full immediately as soon as we finish them. So it's been a great transition from taking unusable space, making it usable immediately. And I'm really excited that Councillor Lemko is going to head up some of the things that we're talking about in terms of providing housing. He already has taken some of those questions that we've had and gone and started looking for the answers. We're looking at doing a housing needs assessment across the community. I know FCSS has talked about those that are unhoused or homeless, but we also want to talk about that in a senior setting because we've got a challenge without enough spaces of the right kind. So that'll be some goals for the upcoming year. And on November 25th, I had Northern Lights Library Systems quarterly board meeting. We passed our budget at that meeting. There are some new board members. The Village of Glendon just joined. And as was presented here to this council, there will be a per capita increase, so the base funding increases, but the push has been to raise the advocacy towards the province to ensure that the province is not downloading the cost to municipalities, with the intention that the slow, steady increase, kind of like what we talked about with even with our taxes, is that slow, steady capture of inflation is the safer way to go rather than having these ebbs and flows in provincial funding, because at the end of the day, it ends up being municipalities that are holding the bag to pay the difference. So There have been some great cost savings actually throughout COVID. They've done some evaluation of their facility there. They have a number of their staff that are working remotely. Some of them even are out of province. They've been able to decrease their operating costs of their facility. And because they have these empty office spaces, they've also sublet some of their space to an accounting firm. So they've actually increased their revenue. At the same time, they've decreased their operating costs. So there's some great opportunities sometimes by taking a look and evaluating their systems. But they are looking forward to having a financial an increase in revenue. They've sold some of their vehicles as well and changed some of their routes in terms of delivering books. But it continues to be an incredibly important resource, being able to, for us, for example, when we didn't have a library manager here, being able to pull in that resource and have somebody come here and be able to provide that backfill support, as well as I'd referenced the library is doing an upgrade on some of their computer systems. The Northern Lights library system provides that support as well. So all in all, happy to see that budget there is very responsible as well. It's a 1.5% increase year over year is the way that they're planning on being able to fund the capacity and be able to find some efficiency ongoing. So it was passed unanimously by the over 50 communities that belong to the Northern Lights library system, and they thank the mayor and council for supporting the advocacy to the province, requesting that the province increase their portion supporting library systems across the province. And that is my report.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lemko, what have you been up to?
I've got 2 pages, Your Worship, but the beauty of going last is it's already all been said. So I too attended numerous plaque presentations along with my colleagues, as well as budget meetings and the ledge meetings. So I'm not going to go into detail about each one. I'll touch on the things I did different than the rest of councils. The Vegreville area stands with Ukraine. I want to touch on that. I went to a Rotary meeting where I presented to the Rotary on how the committee's evolved, what its mandate was and purpose, and we were fortunate enough as the Rotary presented us with a voluntary contribution of $1,500. So thanks to Rotary for recognizing the needs as we move forward with the getting the Ukrainians resettled in our community. I also attended a meeting with another couple members of the committee with MLA Jackie Armstrong-Homeniuk, who is now the Parliamentary Secretary for Ukrainian Resettlement in Alberta. We attended a meeting in Edmonton with her alone, and there was probably 30 to 35 different groups, such as ours, but only unique that they offer different services and the challenges that they're having with Ukrainian resettlement and how they want to support, and there's challenges that way. That evolved into another meeting with Emily Homeniuk and the Premier in Edmonton. And the same group of people attended, and it was talking about those challenges and what can be done from a provincial perspective. And that was just 3 meetings in a month. And so we're going to see more as the committee comes around, the bigger committee, and what they're going to do to help support the Ukrainian resettlers, but also the people who support the Ukrainian resettlers. So stay tuned for that. I did also did a talk at the town here last week with Cheryl Simberg, financial chair on the committee, the champion financial. So you might have heard that today. So there's some good things happening in this community, and I think you'll be an ad in the paper that'll, not an ad, but a story in the paper about how the committee's evolved and what it's done, which is great. Those are 4 items on the Vegreville area stands with Ukraine. So next, the corn maze. We had a wrap up after the corn maze committee wrapped up and talked about the distribution of funds. Then we met with the volunteer nonprofits at the event center, and we handed out $17,000 in cash to the nonprofit organizations from the corn maze activities, which goes to show that there is a benefit to volunteering in the community as a nonprofit, and it's great to see that they helped us, and then in turn they were rewarded for their efforts. I was fortunate enough to be able to hang around for the Vegreville Christmas light up and the parade, and it was nice to see the amount of people on the streets out in a beautiful evening, and the amount of community support in the parade with the floats and such. So it's nice to see. Thing else I did, Walmart food pickup a couple times, and the generous donations from Walmart and No Frills in doing that. So that's about it, boss.
Well, thank you very much. So on October the 28th, I was joined here by the president of the Legion and the chairman of the Poppy Fund for the first pinning of the poppy. And it's the first time I've been involved in that. It was nice that they got some good exposure on that. I'll just say right up front that I've attended most of the plaque presentations, and I want to thank all of council for finding time in their day to reach out to these new businesses, and some been around for a while, and it's getting winter now, and standing outside their businesses freezing is not the easiest thing in the world, but it sure is nice to have the conversation with them. So not only did Councillor Rudig, but Councillor Lemko and myself attended Byron James's retirement at the Alberta Tech, and it was a very light atmosphere and a lot of fun, a lot of jokes, and again, Byron, through his position there, has been a very strong advocate for this community, so we thanked him for that. November the 1st, I had a John S. Batouk Water Commission meeting. On the 2nd, Councillor Lemko from the Tourism Board and myself attended the Go East, the magazine, their AGM at the Métis Crossing up by the river there by Smoky Lake, and it was very well done. And to hear the plans of what they're bringing forth for that, the Métis Crossing, and the little tent structures, or not tents, but what are they called? Huh? The globes? Yeah, those little globes are going to be put them all along the river, and they have a glass roof in them to watch the stars. It's pretty nice. On the 3rd, I attended St. Mary's Awards Night, which was a very nice evening there. On the 4th, we had a budget meeting. I left for lunch, went to the Veterans Lunch at the Legion. On the 8th, FCSS had put together a meeting with a group called Focus out of Vermilion, looking at non-medical transfers where ambulances are not included, in looking to ways to find that we could free up more cars to stay in our community. And we had some very good discussion on that. Going around the table, we had some major players or stakeholders in our community there representing the hospital, the doctors, and some other groups in town. So we'll see where that ends up. On the 10th, I was with Councillor Lemko, and we made the run for the food bank. Myself and the economic development manager, we had a meeting with the Atlas Group, the carbon storage project. So we had quite a lengthy discussion about their project and what it meant to the community here. I know there's going to be some jobs as this project moves forward, but when it's all said and done, there's really just a couple of well shacks on site on the whole project, and everything will be skated out of Fort Saskatchewan. So. And then I did go to the open house for a while afterwards, a couple of weeks later. Remembrance Day was nice to be everybody back inside and not standing around in the cold at the cenotaph. I was surprised that the Legion and most of its veterans and members and the military still marched because it was fairly chilly. Good on them. On the 14th, CAO Leggett, myself, and Pat, the new CAO, or the interim CAO for the county, and the county reeve, Roger, we had some preliminary talks on our recreation agreement coming up, and sort of threw some ideas around, so when our committees get together, we'll have some common ground to start with. So. On the 14th and the 17th, 2 members of our economic development department and myself traveled to Saskatoon for the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance. And I must say that I was fairly impressed with some of the the studies that they've had done and the presentation that they've made to Health Canada and other government agencies on hemp products. And they're really pushing very hard to get hemp out of the health and into the agricultural realm. And it'll make the industry a lot easier. Plus, to see some of the plans that are moving forward in the hemp industry and touching base with all those entrepreneurs and the companies that have been to Vegreville a lot of times. The light up parade was nice to all get together again on that. I did attend on the 21st, the Vegreville Stands with Ukraine, and it was committee, and it was nice to see that, all the work they've had done and what seemed like such a challenge at first, and how they would get someone to a medical appointment, or how they would help someone get a license, or how they would apply for these government fundings, and now it's what they do. I mean, they've got it down to a science, and moving forward there, they've set a plan for the next 2 months, and then the next 6 months, what it looks like for that committee. So I was just there to congratulate them and thank them, because they've done a great job. We've had one ledge meeting on the 22nd, followed by a budget meeting. On the 24th, I did the opening ceremonies at the volleyball, the provincials at St. Mary's School, and it was nice to see the amount of teams, the 10 teams that were in attendance from all the different zones in the province. And I noticed all the hotels and everything were full up all weekend, so it was nice. And then, like Councillor Lemko said, Councillor Bullock said, that we attended the Vegreville Agricultural Society AGM, and it was a nice evening there. I had a couple more meetings in-house here in the last few days. And then today I had a discussion with some mayors of Saskatchewan, the mayor of Lloydminster and myself, and they continue to push hard to get Via Rail onto the northern track. And they've done a lot of work, and it was the first time that we got together and talked to Via Rail itself. And I think he recognized the potential for the tourism side to put more passengers on that train. CN is very much in favor of it, just to get it off the busiest track in Western Canada and put it on a track with a lot less cargo trains on it there. So we'll keep pushing forward with that. We got to start reaching out to the Transportation Minister of Canada, and of course VIA's looking for $2 billion for new trains, and they're looking to sell it, but there's a lot of potential, especially when it comes to Indigenous tourism and all these communities in northern Alberta. The fact now that when they leave Edmonton, Wainwright is the biggest stop on the way to Saskatoon, and they don't even stop there. So the opportunity on this rail line, the northern line, to be able to stop in communities and people to get off and get back on a day later or 2 days later and tour. So I'll say that those mayors of the larger centers in Saskatchewan have been working very hard, along with Gerald, the mayor of Lloydminster, and it was a very, very good discussion, and we all agreed that we will keep pushing forward with this.
That's good.
Yeah. So basically, that's my report. I do not believe that there is any other business of council at this time. Welcome back, Director Lefebvre. Did you have anything? Yep. Okay. So that being said, I will take a motion to go into closed session. Councilor Lemko makes the motion. All those in favor?